Good morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone. A lot of old friends. We're here to celebrate the life of Marcia and Morris and to give support to the family, the little ones. Most people have known Tracy ever since he came to Amarillo, that Sarko family. It's kind of good. He had 2 kids when he came, Shelby, Darby, and now they got grandkids. We got several of them. I'm getting older and my glasses don't always fit the same as they should be, so I have to change focus. But really did like to visit with Marcia. First time I met her, she came over to the house whenever we working on a project, and they had a videotape of some metal boat out in the middle of Juneau Bay, and she caught the bigger fish than anybody. How big was that fish? 175-pound halibut. I never really considered it fishing when you had to use a pistol to get the fish in the boat. Not to say I haven't shot some fish before, but I'm just saying I never tried to get them in the boat. But Marcia had that, and she was proud of that. And how big was yours? It was like 15, 20 pounds. But those are the times that are. And Tracy brought a great woman with him and his children. Marcia was born May 15th, 1953. She was a person that grew up out in the country, had a lot of fun, and she always had a good attitude. She had just started having issues with something that we don't know much about, myasthenia gravis. And it was for those that don't know, myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease that works on the nerve endings and the muscles. The more work you do, the more the muscles break down, and the only thing you have is rest. And she had a terrible time with migraine headaches. And if you knew her, you could tell sometimes when those would come on that it was just absolutely excruciating pain. But anyway, as she grew up, she met Tracy somewhere at college, I think. Nope, Leadville, that's right. She was working as an accountant for the company, and that's a Colorado place, I think. It's above 9,000 feet, so I can't go.
Mine was at 11,000.
Yeah, so she followed him around faithfully with the kids to quite a few different places. Wallace, Idaho. I don't even know where Wallace is, much less Idaho. And then he took her to Juneau, Alaska, where we seen the fish. Then Troy, Montana, and then Leadville, Colorado. We were fortunate enough here in Amarillo and Canyon area to gain a tremendous person and family when they came here. Tracy, I think it was 1993, wasn't it? Yeah. And Tracy, I remember coming out to the plant. I don't know if many of you know him. Then he was easy to meet. He liked to talk, and he was extremely sharp. And we'd talk about stuff, and he was.
Vaughn told me he loved me the first day I was there.
That's really good, Vaughn. I'm glad you didn't meet Marcia first. But it was a cool place, and during that time, I don't know if y'all remember, 1993 was when the tank house was probably as close to it ever being full. I think it had 5.7 modules. A module like 3 sections being full. And we had the byproducts from refining was slimes, which is a weird term for silver residues, selenium, and I don't know how many tons were backed up. Hundreds of thousands of pounds. And that was, I guess, your mandate. Fix that up.
What was mentioned?
But he did it. We worked hard. It wasn't long we had it all. One thing about Marcia, she was a devoted mother. She cherished her family. The love that she put out to her husband, her children, grandchildren was just amazing. Today we have, like I say, Shelby and Darby here and Genevieve. It's tough to lose a family member, especially grandma, mothers, and spouses. I don't know that you can change the significance that it is. And she worked in the Canyon School District for a while as a teacher's aide, and she liked to handle dyslexia students. It's probably why I fit in well. She liked me, I don't know. And we'd talk, and but she found that work extremely meaningful for her. And then as the myasthenia gravis slowly took over her life, she had a lot of troubles getting in and out. The migraine headaches were tremendous. And as we go over this deal today, Marcia, as you know, is survived by her husband, Tracy, her 2 children, Shelby and Darby. Shelby has a wife, Rebecca, and 2 daughters, Isla. Why'd you throw the S in there? I thought it was Isla all this time. But anyway, Isla, and McKenna. And Darby has the one sweet little girl, Genevieve, and with her today is her husband, Fred. Some of y'all may know him. And she is survived by 2 brothers, Robert Mason and sister Billy Lance. So we need to think about what it goes in to dealing with it. As I talked with the family, they came up and they was talking about what they're going to do later. They're going to have the service, and then they're going to have a cremation, and then they're going to take their ashes and spread them around to the places where she liked to go. Chicken Hill? Chicken Hill. Sort of like the fish. I'm not sure where that one come from. And then, but anyway, she used to have a place close to an old cemetery, Tracy said, up on the hill, I guess Leadville. And when she had struggled, she would go up there and sit on the side of the mountain and meditate, pray. The things that probably struggled with her is her inability trying to figure out what was going wrong with her life and her body. And as she struggled through all these times, I remember many times we'd make an arrangement to go eat somewhere, and it would just flare up and be there. Sometimes she'd come and go with us, suffer, but once you got her out, she was always jolly, liked to talk, laugh. And then other times they said that she would stay at home. And one of her favorite things that she would read would be the Psalms 23. She felt comfort in that. It goes, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." This part of Scripture in the Old Testament, Psalms of David, has a special meaning with this. And I think they're very appropriate for what was happening to Marcia and her family. When you look at it, they're using the analog of a shepherd and his flock for God and his people. God's love and grace, both in good times and through changing at times, are keeping you in contact with him. He watches over us and keeps us. And he always has a constant presence, and he supports. It reminds us of both God's unwavering grace, and that first verse establishes God as the ultimate provider. And then in verse 2, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. There's nothing more calming than to be out in the field, the wind rustling, quiet, calms your soul. And God gives this to us. He gives us rest, refreshment, and spiritual well-being. And he restoreth my soul, he leadeth me. It is a time and difficult that God's presence become a comfort. And people that believe in God are never alone. God is all being. It's hard to explain what God is about. He's everywhere. He knows things. He takes care of us. And I imagine that it's a tough part. And when he prepares the table before you in the presence of thine enemies, it symbolizes his abundance and grace and the sense of being honored and cared for. There's nothing more thoughtful and self-sold to pick up is when you think that someone honors you. And I guarantee you, Marcia is honored today by our family and friends. You just don't have it. And when you talk about goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Goodness and mercy are presented as constant companions filling believers' lives. And at this time when Marcia passed, God instantly took this earthly body, gave her her heavenly body, which no longer hurts. And this is a scripture that you should follow all the way through life. There's nothing like the mother, the father, and the family when they're all together and they think about these. And I can imagine the struggles that all of y'all had to endure. They had a few stories they were talking about. They had a small dog that they had. That his name was Aspen. This dog would just love Marcia, they said. He would get up and she would lay on the couch when she was suffering from the headaches and the pain. Aspen would climb up on the back of the couch, lean over so he could be close to his mom. And Aspen loved her. And she loved Aspen. And there was a period of time there, and I'll ask you to draw your attention when you seen the casket. There was something in there that they wanted you to know. Aspen had a baby deer as her sidekick. And that deer stayed there with Marcia. Aspen made sure of it. If it wasn't there, he went and got it. And he was a cheerful dog, wasn't he? Always loved anybody when you come in, but most of all, Marcia. In this family, as you talk to them and you worry about life as it comes crashing down upon all of us, Marcia's prayers have been answered. I'm sure she prayed for forgiveness and relief of pain. And the moment she took that last breath, which we all hated here on earth, she became a heavenly body that no one can change. The belief in what we have today. I know she had her mother and father lived in Colorado. We have a few things that we talk about. But have you got, how many of you know John the Baptist? Come on. Can you tell me what John the Baptist was? Come on, somebody speak up. You know who John the Baptist is here?
Nope.
He's going to weasel out on this sooner or later.
He's Jesus' cousin,
Yeah, he is.
but he was.
What was his clothes?
Oh,
Camel skin.
Animal skins.
yeah, but he was.
And he ate honey and Locust.
He was beheaded.
And anyway, they come along here. Marcia's father had a donkey. Don't know exactly where he come from. Tracy, nobody seems to know. But her father named him John the Baptist. Probably with the stubbornness of what a donkey can be. And anyway, somewhere along the line, they got John the Baptist. And Marcia got the kids this piggy bank. I don't know, y'all need to feel this. We're thinking about trying to get into it.
There's a lot in there.
But anyway, I brought a few tokens of appreciation today, knowing about this. Here you go, Fred. Genevieve. Darby. Shelby. Tracy. Oh, we're gonna give you two. But on birthdays, each of the kids' birthday, they would all have a 50-cent piece, and they would insert it in John the Baptist. And they found this the other day, I guess. And he's full of half dollars. And I assume that John the Baptist is a symbol of what Marcia had too. John the Baptist was one of those people that when the Holy Spirit came upon him, and he was baptized, Jesus Christ, that was a time that he felt that he was in the presence of God. And I believe that Marcia, at the moment, also realized when she regained that heavenly body that she was with God. And Jesus Christ welcomed her to heaven. I don't have a lot more. I could say a lot of things about Tracy and Marcia and family. But it's such a hard time in these days. We sit here and we look. She's no longer there. The body that she once held is only a remembrance of what she was. She no longer suffers, for she is gone to heaven to be with her God. And at this time, Tracy, did you want to say a few words? Or Darby? No, you do it. No, you do it. I'm taking the money with me.
He took John the Baptist. Okay. All right, so I wrote a letter. Dear Mom, I know you grew up in the mountains of Colorado, and we always joked about how you pretty much grew all the mountains in Colorado. You pee on a rock and you just grows a mountain. It was an inside joke growing up of how, we always went jeeping, and when we had nature calls, you pee on a rock to grow a mountain. Or how I like to, huh? And her mom used to, well, now it's passed down, and then it's going to be passed down to Genevieve, so. Or how I like to call you Marcia, Marcia, Marcia from the Brady Bunch. I don't think you really like that much, but it's definitely one of my favorite memories. And then my personal favorite is from the song by Rick Trevino, the Bobby Ann Mason song. Instead of Bobby Ann Mason, it's Marcia Ann Mason back in high school. She was way too cute and way too cool. That was like my favorite song. Mom wasn't really quite a fan, but it actually kind of fits her because she was quite a looker back in the day. Your love language was gift giving. You always finding great things to give to people. Like, whether it was food, drink, clothes, jewelry, cups, anything you saw, you always had somebody in mind. He would tell he would tell people that I am spoiled, but I always say I'm loved. I miss you no matter. I miss how no matter we were good, we would always get in the car, and we would say we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, just because that was our saying. Every time we got into the car, didn't matter if we were going up the road or anywhere. To watching your favorite shows, The Price is Right, soap operas, Judge Judy, and the news, to the fun 90s rage of the Beanie Babies finds that we always went to Hart to go look for new Beanie Babies. I always cherish my time with you, and please continue to watch your granddaughters as they grow up. We love and miss you, Mom. Love, Darby.
Well, for the first time ever since I've been alive, my mom was late.
That is true.
She was notorious for being 15 minutes early, at least, everywhere. And she was late to death, and I appreciate that. Through my life, I've been fortunate enough to give presentations in front of thousands of people, and this is probably one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. So I'm not a natural speaker, but it's like I really have learned to do it over the years from the confidence my mom had given me. She was born in Leadville, Colorado, the highest city in the United States, and she was very, very proud of this. She would spend hours jeeping through the mountains. We'd explore ghost towns, mines. We're always doing something. We travel a lot. She was the ultimate giver. She loved giving gifts to us, her granddaughters, and so many others, as many of you know. She loved giving those gifts to everybody. She loved traveling, exploring. Did she ever tell you about that 175-pound fish that she caught in Alaska?
So proud of that.
We're still telling the stories. She battled through years of pain and health struggles, yet remained a steady source of strength. Her life had many chapters, some beautiful, some incredibly difficult. But through it all, she kept going. She lived longer than she ever expected, and I'm so grateful for that borrowed time, especially she was able to meet her granddaughters and the time she got to spend with them. Of all the things that shaped who I am, my mom might have had the biggest impact of that. She brought out the best in me, not by force, but through love. I always tried to make her proud. I'll never forget in 8th grade, I had a friend over, and we decided to sneak out the window. And it was midnight. We had no place where we were really going. There's not a lot of places to go in Canyon at midnight. So we crawled out, came back, didn't really do much. We were more afraid we were going to get caught for the curfew with the police than anything. And next morning, she's cooking breakfast for us. She calls me back to my room, and she goes, "Shelby, why is there dirt on your bed?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know how it got there. It must have been there for a while." She goes, "Well, why is there a fresh footprint in my flowers outside?" And so my mom was a perfectionist, and she was OCD, and she would pick up on anything. She knew everything was going on all the time. But her life lesson was like, she came and she goes, "Next time you want to go out, just come ask me, or just tell us you're going out." And it was a life lesson of one of those things of just tell her what you're up to, and it's fine. It's, you can do whatever you want.
Just ask and we shall receive.
Yep. Life can feel unfair in its cycles, but the lessons she instilled in Darby and I are lasting. We didn't miss school, ever. She would literally, we talk about Chicken Hill, she would literally walk uphill both ways to school in deep snow. So it was they'd walk down the valley, come back up, here's the school, and then back.
And a skirt. Can't forget a skirt.
In a skirt, yep. Had to wear a skirt back then. And apparently in her yearbook, they had her bus sizes and
Yeah, bus size, waist size.
yeah, it was an interesting time back then. But losing her own mom, brother, and dad at a young age made her value life deeply. Despite tragedy, when her health allowed, she lived life fully and joyfully. Family always came first. No matter where we lived, here, across the country, Alaska, we always made it home for Thanksgiving. No matter how big the stadium, I knew I was going to struggle. I could always hear her voice cheering. We made mistakes. She raised expectations. instead of handing out punishment, we never wanted to let her down. So another really good story. This is my junior year of high school because I know I couldn't drive at the time. So my friend could drive. So we decided that my dad and her went out to a party, and we knew they'd be gone for a while. So we got into the liquor cabinet, and we took the Jack Daniels, made some rum and cokes to get us started as we were going to go to the party house. We'd pretty innocent kids. We'd never really went over to the party house, but we thought we'd go check it out. And so we went over to the party house. We were there pretty late, came back. They were already home. And walk in the door, and the Jack Daniels is sitting on the kitchen table. And my first thought, a little inebriated, was like, man, did I leave that out? And then my mom says, come in and sit down. And so we went in and sat down. She kind of tests her breath. She's like, you hide it well. It's like, what she had done is she had taken the Jack Daniels, tipped it over like this, marked a line on it so that we wouldn't figure out where the line was, tipped it back over, put it back in the cabinet. And then I was smart, so I refilled the Jack Daniels with iced tea so she wouldn't know the difference because they never drank it. I filled it over the line. So she asked me, how did the Jack Daniels get more Jack Daniels in it? But it was another one of those lessons of just, she put the fear of like, hey, you're letting me down a little bit by doing this, but also you have a lot of stuff you're involved in. You don't want to lose your place in the football team. You don't lose your place in school. Just be responsible. But inside your pamphlets that you have is a little just poem quote that I wrote, just kind of representing the life and the lessons that her parents passed on to her, that she passed on to Darby and I, and that we're passing on to our daughters. We begin as seeds shaped by sunlight. As we grow and bloom, we carry forward the lessons we've been given, planting new seeds of our own. The cycle continues, growing, blooming, withering, and returning to the earth, each phase carrying traces of the ones who came before. So thank you, Mom. I'll always love you. Rest in peace.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the love and affection that you've shown to me and to Marcia over the years. And really thank Weldon for giving the eulogy and everything. So anyway, this is a tough day for me. I hated to even see it coming. Once we arranged for this, it kept getting closer. I knew that would be the final day, and it's made it tough. But I first met Marcia back in June 19th, 1978. I happen to remember that date very well. It's a date I got out of school, and Sarko hired me to be a metallurgist at the Black Cloud mine in Leadville, Colorado. And she happened to be working there. And the mill superintendent brought me into the office and was introducing me around. And I remember seeing Marcia. She was wearing a black top, gray colored skirt, fashionable, about mid-thigh, fashionable for that time. She had very nice legs. Little lines in it, but not that I noticed. I wasn't paying that much attention. But asked me who else was in the office, I couldn't tell you. But, and that curly hair. She hated that curly hair, but that's what really made her stand out at the blonde. Anyway, I went into the chief accountant's office and filling out papers. We didn't have cell phones back there to do all the paperwork with us, so we're doing it by hand. She comes in and has this cherry pie, I think it was, and just gave it to me and said, it wasn't anything special, it was just Monday, and that's what she did. She brought things like that to the office all the time. That was my first introduction to Marcia. a few weeks later, I didn't know anybody in Leadville, so I went out, and one of the hot spots in Leadville was the Silver Dollar Saloon. So I went in there. I was by myself, and went in and sat down, and she and a group of her friends were in there and having a good time. And she came over and asked me to come over and sit with them. So I did, and one thing led to another, and we hit it off pretty good. And that's how I really got to start dating her. She was actually, I hate to admit this, but she was actually my first girlfriend. Dated some a little bit, but not until she swept me off my feet, I guess you could say. My mom always said when she found out that what Marcia's name was, that it must be karma that brought us together, because back when I was young, I was 4 or 5 years old, we had a neighbor who was married to my grandfather's, he was a cousin of my grandfather. But anyway, her name was Marcia. And for some reason, I really had this affiliation, or really enjoyed being with her. I don't know why. Maybe it's because she didn't have any kids, and she seemed to really. And I just remember that relationship pretty good, actually. She had a cool car. It's one of those, probably a late 30s version. Still had the rounded hubs, or wheel covers. It had a fan on the windshield to keep, that was the air conditioning. And pretty cool car, I remember that, even at that age. So that was something my mother always thought was kind of unique. Something else that was kind of weird, when I was driving up to Leadville that first day, I was headed up on the Copper Mountain side of Fremont Pass, and headed up to Climax. Whoever's been that way might know what I'm talking about. But halfway up, came across this highway department truck alongside of the road, and the front end had been burned. It almost destroyed the whole cabin. Wow, that was pretty much a pretty significant crash at the time. But after I started to get to know Marcia a little bit more, and I found out that the person she was dating prior to me had got killed in that truck. I don't know what that meant, but I just thought that was kind of weird. But anyway, we started dating and started enjoying life in Leadville, and showed me all her things she used to do, and had a good time. Then, due to the circumstances, she decided to move to Denver about in the fall of that year. And so now we had to have a long-term, long-distant relationship, but that was okay. It gave me a reason to go down to Denver and see her. But then about in December, I get to call the big boss in Wallace, Idaho, and he tells me that I'm being transferred. I get to go back to Wallace, Idaho. And he said he heard there was a big snowstorm there at the time, so he's going to give me a little extra time, and I was supposed to be there Monday. This was Thursday. So I said, well, what do I do? So I had Marcia in Denver, and I don't even know if I called her, but I headed down, packed up everything I had. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I was living in her trailer after she moved out. She had a trailer. I was living in her trailer. Yeah, she was. She bought that herself. Headed out and went down to Denver, blowing snow, and got down there and walked in. I asked her if she'd marry me. I didn't have a ring or anything. I didn't know what I was doing. She'd come with me to Idaho. She said yes. So I headed up there. A month or so later, she flew up there, and we met. She met my family and whatnot, and all that good stuff. But we didn't have an engagement ring or anything, so we Kellogg, Idaho, we went shopping in a jewelry store that was there. And she picked out a ring, and I hate to admit this, but I didn't have any money yet. I hadn't saved anything. But she had sold her trailer, so she had some money, and so she actually bought the ring. I hope I paid her back for it.
I think you did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have.
But anyway, then we got married, in February 17th of 1979. And day of the wedding, I don't know if anybody's been to Colorado on the ski traffic, and then we only had one tunnel going over Eisenhower Pass, or the Eisenhower tunnels, and there was only one bore that was working, and her sister and her brother and Marcia's brother-in-law were bringing my pants up from Denver to wear, and they were late for the wedding, so we got a late start in life, but they finally made it. Also brought the flowers and everything. But, so that was a Memorial Day, Memorial Day just from that. But,
Better than no pants.
yeah.
They'll be quite embarrassing.
Yeah, we couldn't start it without them being there either. We tried to. So we ended up moving to Wallace, Idaho, and lived there. And the place I had rented wasn't the greatest, and all we had was some stuff that she got out of her, that we hauled up with a U-Haul up there. But she went looking for some place, and she found this beautiful A-frame house in Wallace, Idaho, up on the hillside. Creek running by it. You had to cross a bridge to get over to the A-frame, and it was just a unique honeymoon spot. I tell you, could have been, except for the snow. Nice thing about snow in Wallace, Idaho, it piles up. It doesn't blow away like it does here. Very, very pretty. One bad thing about the A-frame, she was real. She loved to keep things clean, and you get spider web up in the peak. But the realtor we rented it from told her how to do it. You take a shirt or something, wad it up, and you throw it at get the cobwebs. So that's what she did. She used to learn how to throw from her brother, so she was probably pretty good at that. But from Wallace, we went back to Leadville again, and because by that time the mill superintendent there was leaving, so I was going to take over that, and we spent the next 8 years there. That's where my kids were born. So it was a very joyous time. Then we go out jeeping all the time, as Darby alluded to. It was just the thing we like to do. It was wonderful. She taught me the pleasures of going out. Just a lot of mining trails around Leadville that you can go to and go get up on the top of the world, above tree line. You can just see forever.
Oh, I know she saw that 100 head of elk
Yeah.
above the tree line.
And just a wonderful thing to do, and what we like to do. And showed me out, went through one thing about my kids. Their names Shelby and Darby. I don't know if you know that those are towns in Montana or not, but 'cause I grew up in Montana. Shelby was, when we're talking about names for Shelby, or before Shelby was born, we didn't know if it was going to be a boy or girl. We didn't have that gender announcement stuff available to it then. So we were going over names, and she was for boys, and she was looking at Shelton. She liked Shelton for some reason. I really didn't like it for some reason. I don't know why, but I mentioned Shelby. And I knew Shelby was a town in Montana, but she didn't. She thought it was a car, which was okay. And then she picked Martin, and that was okay. I didn't know where she got that from, but she just liked the sound. So that's how Shelby got his name. When Darby came along, I remember we were sitting in a restaurant in Leadville, and talking about names. We were talking about girls' names at the time. We didn't know, of course. And trying to add another town in Montana into the. This time she knew it was going to be a town in Montana, if she was willing to. But I just happened to think of something. Darby Rachel came to mind. I said that to her. Rachel's the name of her mother's first name. So we didn't say anything. We just kept talking. A few weeks later, along came Darby, and she actually had to be induced because
I had the cord wrapped around my throat like 5 times.
13.
Oh, it was 13?
Yeah,
I thought it was like
there
13
was
inches.
they showed some irregularities in Darby's heartbeat, so they induced labor, and when she was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck 13 times. And I watched the doctor as he counted every one of them.
I thought it was hot.
And there was pretty long, too. She really stretched that cord
They
out.
were supposed to put it on my record on my birth certificate, but they never did.
Yeah. He thought it was probably a record for that. But, luckily it didn't hurt. Sure could have. A lot of babies get damaged when that happened, but we were blessed and it didn't happen. At least I don't think. No, she's a wonderful person.
I'm adopted, remember?
But Darby's born, she's okay. And I remember when they placed her in Marcia's arms and the nurse asked, well, what's her name? And she yells out, Darby Rachel. I didn't know at the time that she was going to really like that name, so it made me happy. Especially honoring her mother like that. So. Then from Leadville, we got the opportunity to go to Alaska. Got to be part of building a new mine there and whatnot, so couldn't pass up that opportunity. So she's willing to go along with me. We're still in the engineering phase when I first started there, so I was spending a lot of time in Vancouver, British Columbia. So on their move up, they got to spend a month in Vancouver, and got to enjoy the fun of. Darby doesn't remember, but Shelby might remember a little bit of it. One thing they had east of Vancouver was a place called Flintstone Land, and as you can.
I do remember that a little bit.
Yeah, you might. Well, you weren't very old.
Well, I don't know. I remember something about Flintstone.
But the thing about Flintstone Land, everything was pedal power. And it took a lot of effort to get around those tracks. Do you remember that show? But we had a very good time. One thing that really attracted her that they also had a spaghetti factory there. She loves spaghetti factory in Denver. That was a well-known place to go for. So we actually had one there.
It was cheap.
Cheap, and if you like spaghetti. So we had it was only there a month, but had an enjoyable time. And they went up to Juneau, and I came up later. And spent the 3 years there, got the mill going there, and the mine going. But price of silver being what it was at the time, they started that mine at the wrong time. So I ended up having to shut down not long after we started it up. But I ended up going back down to, getting transferred back down to Montana, went back to Asarco, and ended up in Troy. I don't know if anybody knows where Troy, Montana is, but it's in the northwest corner. Wonderful spot, if you don't mind people, no people. Very isolated, and it's what we love. It's a little different terrain than what Leadville had, but they had a lot of logging roads that you can go out and zip around in the mountains and enjoy nature that way. And one time we were out on a logging road, and this cow moose drops down in front of us. We never saw many moose in Colorado at the time. They didn't really have any until later, but here's cow moose. So we stopped. She kept going. So we continued on the logging road, and there were switchbacks. We ended up going back down. Here comes that same cow moose.
Right in front of
Cutting back.
Looking back, and Mom's like, she's gonna charge us. I can feel it. She's gonna charge us. All the way down.
And, I did forget, I don't want to overlook that fish story, but, that was a very fun time for her. And she really wanted to rub it into her brother, Robert. We got a video of it, and she says a long way that how she got a fish bigger than he caught. So, but it was really fantastic. We spent the whole day fishing, and we caught our little 20-pounders. And Shelby and I, one or two of them, not too many. Only thing she caught all day were these double uglies. I don't know what the official name is, but they were double ugly, let me tell you. Didn't want to even touch them. So finally, I'm glad that we were almost ready to wrap up and head back to the pier. And she said she was stuck on the bottom. So the captain came over and said, "Oh, I think you got a fish." So she probably took about 45 minutes, I think, to reel that thing. And finally got it to the top, but she did it all herself. You'll see a picture of on the buddy show where her hair's a little bit curly, and that's when she was reeling up that fish, and it was a little humid out. Her hair liked to turn real curly when we did that. So. But that was a very happy moment in her life, and I'm glad that she got to enjoy that. After Troy, we went back to Leadville again, just for a little while there. Work on a special project there for Sarco. And then I happened to know the person who was the head of Amarillo at the time very well, and he said he could use some help down in Amarillo. So after this water treatment plant was going in Leadville again, we got transferred to Amarillo. And the terrain's a lot different here, and the jeeping is different. You want to go jeeping, you got to go to the river. Down, but so that was different. But one thing we really commented on when we got to the Amarillo area was how friendly the people were. They're extremely friendly, welcomed us with open arms, and it was really appreciated. And Marcia got to develop her, got part of the school, and she was never able to go to school and get a degree herself, but I think she could probably teach kids better than most trained teachers. She had that knack to doing that, and she also knew how to keep them in line. It was very part of what she did. And I was very proud of her for all that. Of course, she suffered a lot from myasthenia gravis and especially migraines. Migraines were devastating. I want to mention one thing about Troy when we moved there. That's probably we would have liked to have stayed there, because in Troy she hardly had any headaches at all. I don't know if she ever had one in Troy. I don't know exactly why. It was low altitude wise. It's only 2,000 some feet. Lowest place in Montana, matter of fact. But also, we lived in a house that was electric heated. It was well before all the people said you're supposed to have electric house, but it was an electric heated house, and it was also heated by a wood burner. So I always wondered if these natural gas houses and a little bit of fuel that comes off has ever contributed to her migraines. I never did follow up on doing anything about it, but that was probably the best, most pain-free time in her life was when we spent that year or so in Troy, and it was just, and all the wildlife we used to see was just fantastic for us. We used to have a salt lake in the backyard, and all the deer every morning come And our little dog would go out there and chase them away, but
You'll always come back to her.
always came back, yeah.
And Shelby even threw a pencil in my knee there.
But we definitely enjoyed living in Amarillo. We've been here a long, long time, 32 years now. One thing that we had available here was more doctors available, you know. For she had her migraines, you just go to the local doctor and you know, they didn't know what was going on. Here you had neurologists and everybody else. And got involved with and looked more deeper into the headaches she was having. And then later the myasthenia gravis. And now I look back on it, I'm not sure that was good. I'm sorry. They just loaded her down with more stuff to take. Then the myasthenia gravis came in, and so it was more pills she was given, and she had to get these infusions all the time. And, made life tough for her. And but we did the best we can, and she still persevered whenever she could. She missed a lot of things. My daughter Darby went to a lot of the historical functions because Marcia wasn't able to make it because not feeling good because of usually the migraines. But the one she did get to go to, a lot of people appreciated seeing her, I think. So she's kind of the life of the party sometimes. She can, especially with a few. What's the Russian drink? White Russian.
I must have got that from her then.
Yeah, it could be. She was the life of the party.
She was definitely a social butterfly.
But usually when you get older, the migraines usually go away. They actually got worse, and she was getting them almost every day. So it was pretty rough on her. Then the last 4 months have been extremely rough. She went into the hospital for an infection, and she's almost in there 3 months out of the 4 in the hospital for various things that developed. They did some things that didn't help her either. But you know, I'm kind of upset about some of that stuff. But we thought we'd be able to get through it, but ended up not being the case. I still feel like I let her down. I did everything I could.
Her body was just tired.
She was ready.
But I got to do, say one thing. Prior to her getting to the hospital, there's some people that probably don't think I should be up here talking about her right now, to be honest. And this is for Marcia's family. I hope they're listening online, but especially. We're actually divorced. But 2 years ago, she developed this belief that I was in love with somebody else for all 40 years that we'd been married, and I'd somehow been communicating with her, and that wasn't true at all. I devoted my life to her. The only thing I wanted to do was make her happy. Did everything I could. But I think with all the things she was going through and all the drugs and whatnot, it affects your mind, state of mind, and everything else. And so she developed that, and she's very stubborn. But anyway, so I spent the last 2.5 years trying to win her love back, win her heart back. the best I can. She did move out and was living by herself, and she actually did very well. I was kind of worried that there'd be a problem there, but she did well. From that point of view, that might have been good, where she was independent and had to do things herself, but didn't make my life any better, I guarantee you. But anyway, like I say, I was still trying to win her back, and she still needed somebody to talk to now and then. When she gets a migraine in the middle of the night and needs somebody to ask what I take, and she'd send me a text. She did learn how to text and everything else when she moved out. And so I was there. I wanted to make sure I was always there if she needed anything. And then we were in the hospital. I was there every day. And she was glad I was there. She'd even text me if I did go home for the night. A lot of times I spent the night. When are you going to get here? You'll be here. Then we would have celebrated our anniversary while I was in the hospital in February, and she told the nurses and things it was our anniversary today. 46 years we've been together. She was very happy about that. So that really hard to say, but I just hope that I hope she got over what the feelings she had about me that weren't right, that realized that they weren't true, and that I did love her with all my heart. A few hours before she passed away, we were in the room, and I leaned over and asked her if she'd marry me. And Darby came back and said, she agreed. Yes, she said yes, even though she couldn't talk. But, so I pray to God that's true. I didn't want her to go on without thinking that I didn't love her all these years. She was a wonderful wife, mother, and I'll attest to that. So.
Spoken from the heart. Is there anybody else that would like to say any words? If not, we have a little screen show, Marcia and kids' lives. And then we'll have a prayer afterwards. And then if anybody's interested, we're going to Pondaseta down here to eat. And if you want to visit with Tracy and the family, you're more than welcome to go. That concludes our service. We'll pray now and have our closing. Our most dear and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today with a sadness in our hearts for the loss of a true friend. As we know, the faith that we have in Jesus is all that it takes to heal us. And we know that Jesus Christ suffered and died for us, and his blood paid for all of our sins and transgressions. He allows us grace, mercy, forgiveness. And as we have Christ in our life, we have no guilt except for which Satan puts upon us. And as it says, he protects us from the evil one. And as we believe in Jesus Christ, he keeps Satan at bay. And we live our lives with the joy that forever and ever we shall live with our Heavenly Father in heaven. And we know that Marcia will be there. We ask all this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. You're dismissed. We're going to, if you want to see the family, come up and talk to them, and then we're going to Pondaseta, I think, for a little bit. Anybody like to go? Welcome.
The old Santa Fe Depot.
Huh?
The old Santa Fe Depot.
Yeah, the old Santa Fe Depot, if y'all don't know where that's at. There's not enough of us that probably rode the old train.